The day a bunch of HOA busybodies claimed they had a master key to my house is the day I stopped thinking I lived in a neighborhood and realized I'd moved into a hostage situation. I'm not exaggerating. 24 hours after I told the HOA president absolutely not my access code to the front gate stopped working, my car got tagged for towing in my own driveway, and I stood there in the dark, staring at my own street like it belonged to someone else. And that's when Brenda Whitmore rolled up in her SUV, smiled like she'd just won a prize, and said, "Real calm. Work with the HOA if you want access restored." My name's Mark Reynolds. I'm 38. I do freelance IT work, and I moved back to Cedar Hollow Estates because my dad passed away and left me his little lake house. The place wasn't some mansion. It was modest wood, siding a small porch, a narrow driveway, and a beat-up dock out back that my dad built with his own 2 hands when I was a kid. I had memories tied to every plank. The first time I walked through the front door after the funeral, I caught myself expecting to hear him in the kitchen humming while he made coffee. Instead, it was just me, and the hum of the fridge, and this heavy quiet that felt like grief had moved in before I did. Cedar Hollow looked peaceful on the surface. Trim lawns, little flower beds, those identical black mailboxes lined up like soldiers. People waved, kids rode bikes. You could hear the lake birds in the morning. The kind of place you'd think, okay, maybe this is where I rebuild my life. The only thing I didn't love was the HOA, but I told myself the same lie everybody tells themselves: it's fine. It's just rules about trash cans and paint colors. No big deal. I lasted 2 days before I met Brenda Whitmore. It was mid-morning. I was in the driveway unloading boxes, sweaty and irritated, when I heard heels clicking like somebody was walking with purpose. I look up, and there she is, Brenda, standing on the edge of my driveway like she'd been assigned to supervise my existence. She had that blonde bob haircut, the kind that screams, "I want to speak to the manager," and she was holding an iPad like it was a weapon. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to Cedar Hollow Estates," she said. "I'm Brenda Whitmore, HOA board president." "I'm Mark," I said, keeping it polite. "Just moving in." "Oh, we know," she said, tapping her iPad like my name was already a file. "We run a tight community here. Standards matter. Safety matters. Compliance matters." That word compliance hit my ear wrong. Like she wasn't talking about a neighborhood. She was talking about a system. She handed me a thick packet. The front page said, "Security Compliance Update" in bold letters. Under that, a paragraph about recent incidents and community safety measures. And then right there was the part that made me laugh out loud because it was so ridiculous I thought it had to be a joke. They wanted a key, not a gate fob, not a number to call. A literal key to my house. A board-held duplicate for emergency access and inspection. Like I was renting my home from them. I looked up at her. "You're kidding." Brenda's smile got tighter. "It's standard. We're implementing a community-wide safety protocol. It protects everyone." "No," I said. "No one gets a key to my home, not the HOA, not your team, nobody." And that's when her mask slipped just a little. Her eyes hardened. "Refusal to comply will be documented," she said like she was reading a script. "Non-compliance will result in fines." I actually had to take a second. "Fines, for not giving you a key to my house." She nodded, calm as a judge, "for refusing the security protocol. The board has authority." "Over the color of my mailbox, maybe," I said, and I could hear the edge in my own voice. "Not over my front door." Brenda tilted her head. "We'll see." Then she turned and walked away like she'd already decided how this was going to end. By that evening, I had an email from the HOA. Violation notice. Refusal to comply with safety policy. Fine $250 per day until compliance achieved. $250 a day for not handing over my house key. Attached was a final warning letter that looked like it had been written by someone who watched too many courtroom dramas. I tried to laugh it off. I did. I told myself, okay, this is a bluff. HOA presidents love to throw paper around. I'll call, I'll argue, I'll get it sorted. But every time I thought about phoning Brenda, I pictured her sitting there waiting, enjoying this. So instead, I did what I always do when I'm stressed. I got practical. I started a folder, screenshots, emails, letters, dates, times. I saved everything because something in my gut told me this wasn't going to be a simple talk-it-out situation. The next day I found my name on the community bulletin board by the mailboxes. Not a joke. A printed notice with my address, Lot 17, non-compliant with security update. Safety risk. Like I was some criminal. Like I was endangering children because I wouldn't let Brenda Whitmore play house with my key. I felt my face burn. People were walking by, glancing at it, then glancing at me. That kind of quiet judgment that makes you want to disappear. I tore the notice down and crumpled it, but the damage was already done. Cedar Hollow wasn't smiling at me anymore. Then came the night that turned this from annoying to terrifying. I had been working late. Real late. One of my clients had a network issue and I was remote troubleshooting, half asleep, living on coffee and spite. When I finally drove home, it was dark and cold, and all I wanted was to go inside, lock my door, and breathe. I pull up to the front gate. The keypad glows. I punch in my code. Beep, red light, access denied. I try again. Same thing. I sit there, hands on the wheel, just blinking like my brain can't process it. Because it's one thing to get fined. It's one thing to get harassed. But being physically blocked from your own home, that's a different kind of violation. That's the moment your stomach drops and you realize someone thinks they can control you. I hit the call button. A recorded voice says, "Please contact the HOA for access assistance." I'm staring at this stupid gate, and I feel this tightness in my chest, this rising panic. My house is right there. My bed is right there. My dad's photos are right there. And I'm sitting outside like a stranger. Headlights appear in my rearview mirror. A white SUV rolls up beside me. The window lowers. Brenda. Of course it's Brenda. She gives me that same fake smile. "Evening, Mark." "What did you do?" I said, and I could hear my voice shaking, not with fear, but with pure rage. Brenda leaned her elbow on the window like we were chatting at a barbecue. "The board suspended your gate access due to non-compliance. You can't do that." "Oh, we can," she said. "It's in the rules." "No, it's not," I snapped. "That's not how any of this works." She shrugged like my outrage was adorable. "Work with the HOA if you want access restored." And that's when I knew. This wasn't about safety. This was a pressure tactic, a power play, a slow squeeze until I cracked. I pulled my phone out right there, hands trembling, and hit record because something else in my gut said, "Don't have this conversation without proof." Brenda noticed and her smile sharpened. "Recording me?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, "because you're literally admitting you're blocking me from my property." She sighed dramatically like I was the one being unreasonable. "Mark, if you just follow protocol, this wouldn't be happening." I stared at her and it hit me crystal clear she wasn't managing a neighborhood. She was running a little kingdom. I slept in my car that night. Not because I couldn't get in forever eventually after an hour of arguing and me threatening to call the police. She opened the gate like she was doing me a favor. But I didn't feel safe. I sat in the driveway and stared at my own front door like it might not be mine tomorrow. The next morning I walked outside and found a neon orange tag slapped on my windshield, "Tow notice improper parking," in my driveway, on my private property. I looked around like I expected cameras to be watching because honestly at that point I wouldn't have been surprised. I marched to the mailbox area where the HOA office was in a little clubhouse. Brenda was behind the counter with two board members, both of them the kind of people who always look slightly bored, like cruelty is just part of the agenda. "You tagged my car," I said. Brenda didn't even look up. "Your vehicle is not aligned properly within driveway visual standards." I laughed, but it was that ugly laugh that comes out when you're losing patience. Visual standards. It's a driveway, not a museum exhibit. Brenda finally looked up, eyes cold. "If you don't like the standards, you shouldn't live here." That stung more than it should have because my dad did live here. This wasn't some random investment property. This was family. It felt like she was telling me my dad's life didn't matter. I went home fuming and walked down toward the lake to clear my head. That's when I saw the new padlock on the gate leading to my dock. A shiny new lock with a tag HOA Property Access Control. My dock. My dad's dock. The one on the deed, the one my property taxes, included the one that was part of this house. I grabbed the lock and yanked hard. It held. I felt something snap inside me like grief and anger tangled together. I didn't just feel targeted. I felt robbed. Like Brenda was trying to rewrite reality piece by piece until my home wasn't truly mine anymore. And then the compliance team showed up. 2 guys in matching polo shirts with a HOA logo, clipboards in hand, standing on my porch like they owned the place. One of them knocked loud like he was doing a welfare check. I opened the door and didn't step aside. "Can I help you?" "We're here for the safety inspection," the taller one said. "No, you're not," I said. "Get off my porch." He smiled like he'd said that line 100 times. "We have authority from the board." "Authority ends right there," I said, pointing at my threshold. "Step off my property." The other guy shifted like he might try to push it. "Non-compliance will be documented." I held my phone up again. "Perfect. Document this, you are trespassing." That finally made them back off, but they left a notice taped to my door like I was a delinquent tenant. And as I peeled it off, I could feel my hands shaking because this wasn't just harassment anymore. This was invasion. This was someone trying to normalize the idea that my home could be accessed and controlled by strangers. That week was hell. The fines piled up. Emails kept coming. Threats of liens, legal action, community safety violations. My work suffered because I was constantly dealing with HOA nonsense. I'd be on a call with a client trying to sound professional while my brain was screaming, what if they cut my access again? What if they tow my car? What if they break in under the excuse of an inspection? And here's the part I hate admitting, there was a moment where I broke. Late one night, I sat on my living room floor surrounded by paperwork, CCNR's bylaws, the security update packet reading sentence after sentence until the words blurred. And I thought, what if I missed something? What if my dad signed something years ago? What if I really did agree to some crazy clause and I just didn't realize it? I actually whispered it out loud. What if I'm wrong? Because that's the thing about people like Brenda. They don't have to physically hurt you to break you. They just have to make you doubt yourself enough that you give up your own rights willingly. They make you feel like resisting is selfish, like you're the problem, like you're the danger. I stared at my dad's old photo on the mantel, him on the dock, sunburnt, smiling proud, and I felt this wave of shame. Not because I was resisting, but because I was considering surrender. I almost did it. I almost told myself, fine, give them a key, pay the fines, keep your head down, just to make it stop. And then my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Mark. This is Evelyn Carter from 2 houses down. I saw what they did at the gate. Please tell me you recorded it. I blinked. Evelyn. I'd met her once briefly. She seemed normal, quiet, the kind of neighbor who smiles and goes back inside. I texted back, yeah, why? Her reply came instantly. Because what Brenda is doing is not HOA enforcement, it's coercion, it's potentially criminal. Don't do anything without talking to me first. 10 minutes later, Evelyn was in my kitchen with a laptop open, calm as a surgeon. She was an attorney, real estate and property law. The kind of person who reads legal documents for a living and doesn't get intimidated by bold fonts and HOA letterhead. Show me everything, she said. So I did. Emails, notices, photos, the towing tag, the dock lock, the recording from the gate. She listened to Brenda's voice, work with the HOA if you want access restored, and her eyes narrowed. That's the line, Evelyn said. That's the line that changes everything. What do you mean? She leaned back. They're conditioning access to your own home on compliance with an unreasonable demand. That's not just a civil dispute, that's coercion. Depending on how far they push, it could be extortion. Hearing someone else say it out loud felt like oxygen. Like I wasn't crazy. Like I wasn't being dramatic. Like my instincts had been right. And Evelyn wasn't alone. The next day, Hank Morales, an older guy who'd lived here forever, came over holding a rolled-up map like he was delivering a prophecy. This is the original plat map for Cedar Hollow, he said. I keep copies because these board folks forget their place. He spread it out on my table, pointing at the access road and the gate. See this? This road is a county right-of-way. Public easement. HOA doesn't own it. They can maintain the gate, but they can't legally block residents from accessing their homes. Not like that. I stared at the paper and felt something inside me change. Fear turned into focus. Confusion turned into clarity. So I did what I do best. I built a case. I organized everything into a timeline. I labeled files. I backed up recordings in 3 places. I printed copies. Evelyn drafted a formal demand letter, cease and desist, immediate restoration of access, removal of fines, and confirmation the HOA would stop attempting to obtain house keys. She also helped me file for an emergency court order, an injunction, because we both knew Brenda wasn't going to stop politely. Meanwhile, the neighborhood started whispering, because if Brenda could do this to me, she could do it to anyone. I wasn't the only one who didn't want to hand over a key. I was just the first one she decided to make an example of. And then the twist hit. I got an email forwarded from a board member, anonymous, no name, just a subject line. You should see this. Inside was a screenshot of an internal HOA message chain. Brenda writing plain as day about pushing a security amendment and forcing compliance by limiting gate access. She actually typed the words, apply pressure. Pressure, like we were toothpaste tubes. Evelyn looked at it and said, this is your leverage. I felt my jaw tighten, so it was never about safety. Evelyn shook her head. No, it's about control. And you're in the way. That evening, Brenda showed up again. Not smiling this time. No welcome packet. No fake friendliness. Just cold determination. She stood on my porch with her iPad. You've been stirring up trouble, she said. I crossed my arms. I've been trying to get into my own house. Brenda stepped closer, voice dropping like she was sharing a secret. You can fight it, Mark, but you'll lose. The board controls access. I took a breath slow, and for the first time I wasn't shaking. No, I said. The county controls the road, and the law controls my front door. Brenda's eyes flashed. We'll see about that. And the next morning she tried to prove it. I left early planning to meet Evelyn to file updated paperwork. I get to the gate red light again. Access denied. And this time there were 2 HOA security guys standing there with a little barrier arm down like they were guarding a border crossing. Behind me cars started stacking up. People honking. I could hear frustration building, and I knew Brenda had chosen this moment on purpose. Public humiliation. Public pressure. Then Brenda appeared right on cue, striding up like she was walking onto a stage. Open the gate, I said loud enough for the cars behind me to hear. Brenda folded her arms. Not until you comply. A woman behind me leaned out her window and yelled, What is going on? Brenda snapped her head like she didn't like being questioned. Safety protocol. He's non-compliant. And that was the moment I decided no more private suffering. No more quiet paperwork while she played dictator. If she wanted a show, I was done being the villain in her story. I pulled my phone up and hit record. Brenda, I said steady, are you preventing me from accessing my home unless I give you a key? Her eyes flicked to the camera. Put that away. Answer the question, I said. She smiled tight angry. Yes, until you comply. That's the board's decision. Behind me I heard a couple people gasp. Someone muttered, She can't do that. And right then a patrol car rolled up. Officer Daniel Brooks. Not because I'm special, because Evelyn had told me, if they block you again, call law enforcement immediately, and I did. The second my code failed, I dialed. Officer Brooks stepped out calm but alert, looking at the line of cars and the barrier. Morning, he said. Who's in charge here? Brenda stepped forward like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. I'm Brenda Whitmore, HOA Board President. This resident is refusing to comply with community safety policy, so Officer Brooks held up a hand. Ma'am, are you preventing a resident from accessing their home? Brenda didn't hesitate. She looked him dead in the eye and said, Yes, until he complies. I almost couldn't believe she said it that plainly. It was like watching someone confess on camera because they truly think the rules don't apply to them. Officer Brooks' expression changed, subtle but real. What compliance are you demanding? Brenda lifted her iPad like it was evidence. He must provide a duplicate house key to the board and submit to safety inspections. Officer Brooks blinked. A house key? Yes, Brenda said like it was normal. We need access for emergencies. Officer Brooks turned to me. Sir, is that true? I nodded. And she's been fining me daily and locking my dock. I have emails, notices, and a recording of her telling me, work with the HOA if you want access restored. I handed him printed copies right through the window of my car because Evelyn had told me to keep them ready. He scanned the papers, then looked at the plat map Hank had given me, the one showing the county easement. Officer Brooks walked to the barrier, touched it, looked back at Brenda. "Ma'am, you understand, this is a public right-of-way easement, correct?" Brenda's face tightened. "The HOA maintains the gate." "Maintaining isn't the same as owning," Officer Brooks said. "You cannot block lawful access to someone's residence." Brenda's voice rose. "He's a security risk. He's refusing safety protocol." I leaned out my window and said clear and loud, "The only risk here is you thinking you own people's homes." Brenda snapped her head toward me like she wanted to bite. "You're poisoning the community." Officer Brooks stepped between us firm now. "Ma'am, I'm instructing you to open the gate." Brenda's eyes went wide like she couldn't comprehend being told no. "You can't order me." "I can," Officer Brooks said, and his tone left no room for debate. "Open it now." For a second everything froze. Cars idling, people watching, Brenda staring at the officer like she was calculating whether her ego was worth the consequences. Then she did the thing every Karen does when reality catches up. She doubled down. "I want his access suspended," she said, voice sharp. "I want him removed." "The board." Officer Brooks cut her off. "No, that's not how this works. You are obstructing access. If you continue, we will address this as a legal issue beyond your HOA authority." Brenda's mouth opened, then closed. Her cheeks flushed red. She looked around expecting support, and for the first time, she didn't get it. People were staring at her like she was the problem, like maybe they'd been swallowing her nonsense for years and suddenly realized they didn't have to. One of the security guys shifted awkwardly, then quietly lifted the barrier control. The gate arm rose, and the line of cars started moving. I drove through slow, almost unreal, like I was crossing back into my own life. In my mirror, I saw Brenda standing there, small and furious, her iPad clutched to her chest like a shield that had finally cracked. Officer Brooks pulled Brenda aside. I couldn't hear every word, but I saw him gesture to my paperwork, saw him point toward the clubhouse, saw Brenda's hands fly up in frantic protest. Then I saw something I didn't expect: one of the other board members, one of her quiet little followers, walking away from her. Just leaving. Like the spell had broken. I turned onto my street, the one I'd stared at from outside the gate, and the anger in my chest finally shifted into something steadier. Not victory, not celebration, just a hard, solid certainty. Because Brenda Whitmore could control paint colors and trash can lids and mailbox numbers all she wanted, but she was never going to control my front door. Lesson: never let anyone convince you that rules matter more than your rights.